Good morning, friends. Today we discuss the remaining part of the theories which pertains to relationship between the international law and the municipal law. In the earlier we have seen the two theories, theory of monoism and theory of dualism, and today we discuss the remaining three important theories are there. Number those theories, in which the third theory or today's number one theory is specific adaptation theory. Specific adaptation theory is a theory which says that the state has to adapt laws which is international laws which it want to apply. Unless until it does not adapt, such international law does not bind upon the state. You know, in 1972, the first Earth Summit was held in Stockholm, and in our Indian jurisdiction there is no law till 1986, whereon the Environmental Protection Act was enacted. Like that, there are a number of international conventions which has been, though India signed the conventions, but those conventions does not come into force to the domestic jurisdiction of India, like the Anti-Apartheid UN Convention Act of 1981, the Anti-Hijacking Act of 1982, the Suppression of Unlawful Act, against the Safety of Civil Aviation Act of 1982, and International Monetary Fund and Banks Amendment Act of 1982. So like that, there are innumerable international conventions are there. Mere signing does not bind upon the state. So the state has to specifically adapt that international convention. You know, in international arena, there are number of child labor conventions are there, because child labor is completely prohibited under the international conventions. But in India, we have enacted the Child Labor Convention, Child Labor Act, Child Labor Employment Prohibition Act in 1986. That too, child labor is not completely banned in India. Child labor is permitted only selected sectors. There are schedules there in that act, where in selected sectors, 7 or 8 selected sectors are there: cement industry, railways, factories, and construction industry. In such industries only child labor is banned. But in international arena, international prescriptions says that we have to abrogate the child labor. But that is not possible because socio-economic conditions are there in our country. So because of that, we are not completely abrogated the child labor. And thing is that the state has to specifically adapt the convention, international convention, then only it becomes the part of the law. Unless until state does not adapt, such convention cannot be a part and parcel of the law. And so the fourth theory is the theory of transformation. As per this theory, the theory says that the international law has to transform into a domestic law. Then only it would have the effect. Until unless it has been not transformed into international sphere, such international covenants does not have any effect upon the party who has signed that agreement. So if you see the United Nations headquarters agreement which the America signed, So later America has made a separate law. American Congress made a separate law by transforming into a domestic law, providing immunities, providing all the aspects to that act. And third theory we are discussing, that is the delegation theory. So delegation theory basically depends upon the constitution of the respective countries. If that country's constitution permits, then only the international law becomes the part of the domestic law. If the constitution law says that it should not be, automatically becomes the domestic law, means in such scenario that would be not be applicable into the domestic law. So these are the 5 important theories are there in the with regard to relationship between the municipal law and the international law, or vice versa. And now we want to know what is the practice, state practices. We discuss now the state practices, various state practices. Number 1 is in Britain. You know that the international law has been classified into 2. One is a customary international law and the modern international law. So customary international law is a law which is international law which prevails up to the period of 1945. So after the evolution of the United Nations Organization, whatever international covenants or treaties or agreements come out, they comes under the purview of the modern international law. In Britain, they have the practice that if there is a customary international law is there, principles are there, then that principles are automatically becomes a part of the national laws. If a modern international law principles are there, then those have to be accepted by the United Kingdom or British Parliament. Then only it becomes a domestic law. And with regard to America, they also depending upon the customary international law and the modern American law, and all the customary international principles automatically becomes the part of their domestic jurisdiction. Whereas in case of the treaties are concerned, then the treaties has to be ratified by the Constitution, because the Constitution of USA provides Article 6, which says that all laws made in the international jurisdiction should get the nod of the Congress. Unless they won't get the nod, then that cannot be implemented into American domestic law. And even that has been the stand of this American government has been backed by the Supreme Court there. So the same thing is as and today they are holding. Then with regard to India, our country, you know the Constitution of India provides Article 51C, which says that India should endeavor to ensure the respect to international law and its obligations. it's a duty on part of India to respect and promote the international law. In addition to that, we have Article 253 is there, one more article, which says that Parliament has a power to make any law for the whole or any part of the territory of India for implementation of any treaty. So a treaty is there, a international agreement is there, that should be ratified, that should be brought into the domestic jurisdiction as per the provisions of the Article 253. Unless until that has been not ratified or not brought into the domestic jurisdiction by the domestic jurisdiction, then that international obligation or international treaty or agreement or accord have the no value. So that is the stand of the India is concerned. And the stand of India has been tested in the various courts. Like in a case called Maganbhai Ishwarbhai Patel versus Union of India. All India Reporter, 1969, Supreme Court, page number 783. There, Supreme Court has stated that the whatever which is inserted by the Article 253, clause numbers 253 is a correct. Automatically all the international agreements or accords should not have the force of local domestic law. So this is a very, very landmark judgment delivered by the Supreme Court. And in Teen Bhaga case, that is be called as a Union of India versus Sukumar Sen Gupta. All India Reporter, 1990, Supreme Court, 1692, page number. There, agreement with Bangladesh, giving of certain land, Teen Bhaga land to Bangladesh, exchange of land to Bangladesh, and that has been questioned whether the state has the power, the government has the power to give the such kind of arrangement with Bangladesh. Then in this case also Supreme Court has held that so here there is no cessation of the any part of the territory. Only it was given for a smooth passage for some time. In such scenario, there is no constitutional amendment is required, and whatever act did by the government at that time has been validated by the apex court of the land. So some more cases also there in India, important cases have been reported. One is a Jolie George versus Verghese and others. That also been ratified the earlier decision of the Teen Bhaga case decision. So this is with regard to relationship between the municipal international law with the municipal law. As you know, there are 5 important theories are there, and we have discussed all these theories, and also we have discussed the state practices with regard to these theories. Thank you.